All right, so I'm going to get started here, and I'm just going to give everybody an update on what's going on with Omni-AI Alliance, because for the last 4 cities I've been in, that's what we've been bringing up. What's happening with Omni-AI? People are a little bit electrified, and they really want to pursue growing this, alliance and actually are working it. So today we're going to talk about what is consumer AI versus AI-infused edtech, and I have a guest, Kiddom. And so I'm going to introduce you in a little bit so you can speak, and you have this gorgeous background, which is super fun. But I want to just give everybody that's going to be listening in sort of the update as to where we're at now. So you know what Omni-AI is, and Susie knows, and anyone else who joins. I see somebody's on, like Robin Stout. Hi. So you kind of know what we're all about, because you're probably going, what is Omni-AI? That's what people have done for the last 6 events. I think this is the 7th or 8th one. So we're basically leadership at the level for AI at the level of administrative converged systems to transform your schooling delivery. And then also bring, especially public schools, in sync with what's actually happening in society right now and meet all their pressures, because for these last 4 cities, boy, I've been hearing there's a lot of pressure. And I'm sure I'll hear it again in California and New Orleans and everywhere else I'm going to go this fall. So the Alliance works in AI futures, like where is it all going and why is it going that way and what it means. Now, the responses I've been seeing is some people are very resistant to AI. They're afraid of it. They're afraid kids are going to cheat. They're already taking away everybody's phones in schools. And then other people are super excited about it because they've started to play with it and they see where it could go, but they still think it's just a tool. So we've got 3 committees, and one of them is on leadership. That's chaired by Dr. Douglas Hendricks. We just got another chair that's going to join us from Ohio. And then EdTech Vision, which is chaired by Roland Antoine. And then Ernie Delgado chairs the Balancing AI with Human Intelligence, which is another major theme of this whole alliance. So let me give you a little bit more update. So I want to give you a little bit more information about what we are, and then I'm going to bring Abbas Manjee. Did I say her first name right, Abbas?
Abbas. Abbas.
Abbas?
Yep.
That's really cool. Okay, so Abbas. He's the co-founder and chief academic officer of Kiddom. He's going to share with us what they're doing because it's really exciting. And then we're going to discuss amongst ourselves. We have a chance to ask questions, and you guys can say, what is going on here? So our work right now, we have about 600 members. We'll keep growing constantly. People want to be part of this. Our post-meeting recording stats are averaging 7,500. Sometimes they're closer to 10,000. Sometimes they're slightly less. 8,000 probably is more the average. Our national promotion is to 310,000 people. We really want to include more higher ed in the market because we've realized they're really curious about this as well. So we're going to start doing that. We've got 3 papers that are about to come out. We're just going through final editing. That's one for school leaders to understand it, one for the EdTech side, and then one for curriculum and instruction people because they're very curious about their role in this. They're tool users in their minds right now. They're not infrastructure thinkers. So we got to lead them in that direction. And then we're doing the national gathering in Chicago. These are our confirmed dates. Evening of April 15th, we're going to kick off in Chicago, and then 2 full days of a working conference. So that means we're going to design this, especially so that it is not repeating itself anywhere. Every speaking, every breakout, everything that we do is going to be very intentional. So that's the plan for that. When we talk about Omni-AI, the reason we formed this alliance is because we realize there's multiple types of AI. Right now, you're probably familiar with generative AI, but you haven't really dug into discriminative AI, what recommendations engine AI is doing, what's the difference with the natural language processing chatbot, all that other kind of stuff, right? So you've got maybe some concerns about what you're going to be able to show in terms of like the outcomes of AI. It's all going to be continuing to increase and change. And then you're going to see the concern about actually including human intelligence. So that's what's actually happening with Omni-AI. So I want to ask anybody any questions, like if you want to ask me questions about what do I mean by Omni-AI? Nobody has any questions? Oh, okay. All right, so I'm going to continue. All right, so the last couple events, we've been talking about the difference between the consumer commercial AI, where everyone's using Copilot, Grok, ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, DeepSeek. There's 472 in the market right now that we know of. And then which ones are actually growing to work with EdTech lesson building platforms, because that's the second way they start to think about it. And then the third way is they start finding it embedded. Like Abbas is gonna, did I say that right? I have to make sure I say your name right. You're gonna talk about it being
You got it right, Martin.
good, embedded in your AI, embedding AI in your digital curriculum. And then the way we're wanting you to start thinking about it is it's something you own as an institution, and you're worried more about orchestration than you are just about how people use it and being cautious in every direction. Because you own it, you're going to be able to run the security and to sort of manage it all very differently. So this is our little architecture document, the beginning one. There's a lot more to this, but you can see there's multiple types of AI converging in that. There's a single sign-on that's loading in a lot of different content and courseware, and maybe interacting with embedded AI so that it can do things that right now most institutions have never seen, although they're seeing it a lot in other industries like the finance and healthcare industries. These are some of the agents we're expecting in the market. We're expecting obviously more communications agents, grading agents, even busing agents to tell you which buses are late and what that means. And for the different schools for starting time, sometimes that happens with bad weather in certain parts of the country. Anyway, you can sort of take a look at all of these. These will grow continuously. This is not the same as level of agent in a school. I'm going to check my notes here. Any questions on this? I want to make sure I'm stopping in time for questions. Doug? Okay, I'm going to answer a question. Okay. The Omni-AI difference here, and this is something we started talking about in the last 4 events as well, is that if you're living in the world of account-based AI use, you've got a large language model, maybe it's ChatGPT, maybe it's something else, you maybe even purchased it for your school or district, you're worried about the agents you're building, and you're going to be very concerned about how to use the AI, what not to do. You're telling people in your institution, like, don't do this, don't do that, no keywords for this, blah, blah, blah. But your governance is fragmented. You might be using it a certain ways in certain departments and then differently in teaching and learning. We're trying to tell you that when we move into Omni-AI as a world and more people start doing that in schools and districts, when you own it, you're going to be more worried about fluency, which is a whole different arena of teaching and learning, and what you're going to have to do with your professional development. So what that means is that they're going to want to be talking to you about, you're going to need to talk to them about co-working and architecting that. I know just even yesterday we had a person that showed up that was in the finance department of a school, which is interesting. And then AI generated insights and having them be contextualized, your governance, your controls. So the difference is really between thinking of, I'm going to chat with something versus I have a mental map of all of the access points I have, and I'm going to craft something that's going to do some work for me, not just give me a text or just give me an image. This is a very different sort of thing to think with. So it's going to take a lot of training, and that's what the Omni-AI Alliance is going to be leading. Okay, so if you look at what the policy principles are, and these are just 5 of them, there's 10 of them. I didn't want to take up too much time this morning or this afternoon, actually. I'm in a different time zone than I was when I started yesterday. Human primacy is the first thing people think about. Like right now, the normal policy is AI is a system only. You think of it as a tool. Where we're going with Omni-AI is that you're going to be humans decide only the permanent actions. In other words, AI is going to be doing things for you as a teacher, as a learner, as an administrator at some level. And that's going to be a sort of different behavior pattern for the humans as well. You'll think about right now, data sovereignty is don't share student data with third parties. Well, where we're going is you'll have full institutional control, so you won't have to worry about that. You don't have to teach people about that unless you're teaching them about how to use outside AI, because they're students and they're going to go do that. But inside, your institutional control will be complete across all your systems. You've been worried about explainability because it's a black box. The current AI use is just sort of this black box of mystery, who's running it, who's making all the policy and security and privacy around it. But we're moving to audit-ready explanations. And actually, the Learning Council, we've selected 26 tech standards that we're going to work on. And that's one of them, that what you purchase in a school or district needs to be audit-ready with explainability for the decisions it's making. And then bias and equity, I won't go over all of these. And then override rights, like where does the human get involved? Exactly. And is there supposed to be an override for this particular function so that the machine's not making decisions for the student that I didn't want it to make? Those are the types of considerations that'll be there. Okay, so then again, 26 new standards. There's 4 levels that the Omni-AI Alliance is going to be paying attention to. The lowest level, or the level that people are looking at right now, is the individual AI-infused apps and systems that are sold to you as instances, like Abbas is going to talk about. And then there's the Omni-AI itself. This is the mind of the enterprise sitting above all of your systems. And then we'll probably have people mature into worrying about the AI user shells, which is sort of capturing all of the asks and the returns for a student so that that's portable. And there are some companies doing this in other industries already. It's sort of like a super transcript that you would have sharing with your system, but the user themselves gets to say what's shared, what isn't shared. And then we're going to need some Omni-AI exchanges and some certifications and trust. So we're going to be working on that, giving check marks to companies that we approve because we know their security is solid and they're doing things right. Okay, so this particular day that I'm having with you this hour is about what is the difference between consumer commercial AI versus crafted digitally designed instruction. The Omni-AI Alliance believes very firmly that we need to keep the best in class in digitally designed instruction because a good 90-some% of teachers are not instructional designers. So even if you give them AI to use right now in the consumer commercial space, they can't really replicate all of the effort and design and the animations and the way that the screen and the sounds and the movement of the user interface is interacting with a student in order to cause them to learn. So there's been a lot of talk about this because I'm seeing AI try to replace a lot of content, and the prediction is that a lot of content companies are going to go away, and maybe they should if they're just text. Maybe they should if they're just sort of flat interface, right? They're not really doing anything exciting and different. And that's really where I want to bring Abbas in to talk to you about what is that difference? Why did they take a really great product, Abbas, and then also embed AI in it, right? Because you are a digitally instructionally designed suite of digital curriculum. So I'm going to introduce you that way, and very excited to have you with us. But let's talk about this because this is a real issue that people need to understand.
Well, thank you so much, Lonnie, for that introduction. Hi, folks. My name's Abbas. I'm calling you live from Grand Central, New York City. I have a few slides that I'll use to drive the conversation today. So one moment while I pull those up.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure you can share. Yeah,
I think you can
good.
see my
You're
screen, right?
sharing. Yep,
Okay,
yep.
great. All right. Well, thank you so much again, Omni-AI and Lonnie and Doug, for the opportunity to discuss learning intelligence technology with you all. First, I know that I've got a cool background right now, but I'd like to earn your trust. And so first, I'm going to earn your trust because I think I have something to say based on lived experience and what I see in the market. Two, I want to talk about how did we get here up to this point right now that you were talking about, Lonnie. And then three, I want to talk about where we're going in the future, which is towards learning intelligence technology. So first, I want to earn your trust. Who am I? I'm the child of immigrants. My parents grew up in an impoverished area of Karachi, Pakistan, and I grew up in the Chicagoland area in the 80s. Public school saved me. I stayed in school all day long because I ended up growing up in a broken home. And I just wanted to make sure that I got straight A's so I can get out of my house and get really rich. And so actually, I did that. I got to college and then I studied finance and I landed a job as an investment banker, but not this investment banker. I was actually the guy crunching numbers, 80 to 90 hours a week. And it was during this time that I realized, you know, weighted average cost of capital models were not life fulfilling for me. And I needed to do something different. And so I decided to switch careers and become a teacher. I started as a high school math teacher. I was placed in the Bronx. I was a founding teacher, actually, which means I was one of the first hires. So I got to make some really important decisions with 0 years of teaching experience. One of those experiences was actually choosing which curriculum or textbook my students would use or my class would use, which would culminate in a high stakes exam. And and in New York City, if you're not aware, you have to pass one of these, five of these exams actually to earn a diploma. And many of my students had failed this exam numerous times. It's called the Regents, if you're a New York person. And so after a lot of internal debate, I pitched to my principal that I should just write the math curriculum because none of the textbooks that I saw in these vendor fairs were usable nor rigorous. And with 0 years of teaching experience, I was allowed to do that. So this is kind of nuts and crazy at how crazy the education world is, too. Um, and so I started my teaching career authoring curriculum, learning how to teach, going to night school, and I built some glorified spreadsheets that helped me deliver on this idea of working synchronously and asynchronously with my students. Yes, I was actually using those terms well before the pandemic, and that is why people thought I was crazy. Except my students suffered from absenteeism. So actually, it was working for them. And we were able to achieve an over 85% pass rate in my first year with students who had failed the test numerous times. Um, except I nearly burned out. uh, and there's a couple things I learned in my lived experience as a teacher. One, nothing was really talking to each other. I mean, things have changed now, but there's still interoperability is still we're still far off from that. Um, I didn't have enough chairs, so textbooks made great chairs. And it was a wild, wild west situation anyway, where some teachers were using them, some teachers weren't, and no one was really thinking about coherence. And then separately, in 2009 through 2015, we saw the proliferation of EdTech, specifically through the supplemental channel, because as it turns out, no ed tech wanted to crack the core cookie because it's really hard to compete in a capital intensive market. And then finally, teachers are set up from day zero to fail because every student comes in with specific knowledge gaps. And those knowledge gaps, if not addressed, continue to exacerbate inequalities. And that, my friend, means that we actually cannot actually reasonably deliver on the promise we make in American school systems. And that's a problem. So let's talk about now, right? So talking about, and Lonnie, you were talking about this briefly as well. I believe that knowledge and technology have historically been divorced. You've had, textbooks that have been locked, static. Folks, to get content out of them, you had to manually type things up or scan them. Lesson plans were not typically and historically created for you. You had to author them yourself. And then if you had time to put your students' grades into an electronic grade book, you often found out too little, too late if you could actually do something about it, right? And then the proliferation that I was talking about happened, right? I mean, there's a lot of smiles on this slide because of our branding, but people actually on the ground are not smiling because of this proliferation, right? Teachers have to juggle multiple tools to do the job. Administrators are signed up for a bunch of administrative tools and dashboards and reports, but they always end up living in a spreadsheet for some reason, probably because those tools don't work for them. And students are constantly having password related issues because they don't know where they're supposed to be. And there's really not a single place where they can figure out how they're doing. And that leaves families in disarray. And that is why still today in 2025, parent teacher conferences are looking backwards rather than forwards. And then 2020 happened, right? And that changed everything. Overnight, we were supposed to figure out how to do distance learning, which was a challenge. And we talk about learning loss as if it's some new thing, but we believe at Kiddom that learning loss has always been there. It's always existed. Just the jump to supplemental tools and online tools just merely exacerbated those problems. And that's why we have what we call learning loss. And those inequalities are just further exacerbated. To get out of this COVID mess, right? We've seen since 2021, districts are starting to pay attention to the core. There is an acknowledgement that coherence matters and that evidence-based materials matter. There is literally an entire entity called Ed Reports that has stood up to vet how materials matter and actually assign a quality score. You will see in this image that the dominance of supplemental is continuing to go away. And today, core is the name of the game. And what the future of the K-12 market looks like is still unknown, but we're willing to bet that has something to do with the marriage of core curriculum and learning intelligence technology. Unfortunately, it's great that districts are investing in core, but it's really expensive still. And under the hood, folks are still buying bad stuff because those big logos, they have a good firm grasp on distribution, and we need to crack that. And then unfortunately, because core is still wonky, consisting of multiple textbooks and workbooks and websites that have PDFs, we still see the teachers committing so many hours of their day to just making sense of materials and actually just trying to find better versions or variants of the materials, or even creating materials themselves because they're frustrated. And the kicker is, even though evidence-based materials are here, evidence-based materials, there's a dirty little secret with them, Lonnie. They're actually harder, right? They're harder to teach. There's more stuff in there. There's more teacher PL. There's more instructional routines that the teachers have to know. And there's a pedagogical shift. The teacher can't be at the front of the classroom anymore. They have to facilitate and orchestrate discourse. How do you do that if you don't know the content, right? So you have to become a content master. You have to understand instructional routines and still have to grade. These things require a consistent formative assessment. That's a lot of work. And with the proliferation of AI, as we've been talking about consumer AI specifically, 10 years ago, we had teachers pay teachers and Pinterest. Today, we have ChatGPT, which is effectively, in my opinion, teachers can pay teachers 2.0, right? And so with that, I want to talk a little bit about learning intelligence technology. So y'all do such a great job explaining the variations of AI. I want to go over this real quick, but really AI has been around our lives for quite some time. Just because you're not using ChatGPT doesn't mean you're not using some form of AI, whether it's a skills specialist or a pattern finder like Amazon. In general, I think today we're mostly focused on Gen AI, and there's a couple of things we need to know about Gen AI tools, right? There's actually a very important distinction and difference consumers, buyers need to know, which is the difference between open AI models and closed AI models. Open AI models, like your traditional GPT Claude, they're trained on the entire internet, right? When you dump your lesson plan that you bought or downloaded or acquired, when you dump that into your GPT, it's running an analysis across everything that exists on the internet, which is reintroducing stuff, which runs the risk of reintroducing stuff that could be unapproved, bad, or just ultimately just unrelated, and thereby getting a hallucination. And then there's closed AI models, which are using that large language model technology on a restricted data set. So, for example, on Kiddom, when you have high quality core materials, such as illustrative mathematics, when your teacher's using that to generate practice problems, we're only using our large language models to read illustrative mathematics to generate materials specifically aligned with illustrative mathematics. That's a very important distinction that the market needs to understand. And that is why we're doing what we're doing. Learning intelligence technology is effectively a new class, right? And it's ultimately they're recognizing that the teacher is incredibly integral to the classroom, right? Learning is a social process. You need the teacher. Teachers are great. When we think about teachers and what they do best, with teacher happy hours, no teachers are talking about how great their class was when everyone was silent. They're typically talking about how they were able to extract aha moments by connecting with kids, right? And that's what learning intelligence ultimately enables teachers to do. It's built on the foundation of high quality materials, so the teacher can trust that the content is going to be great and evidence-based. It enhancing what the teacher can do and taking some of the mundane, cumbersome stuff. It's taking over. Machines are really great at recognizing patterns. Let's let them recognize patterns. Let's let them automate grading so that teachers can make decisions from grading and decide to use their physical proximity strategically. Because we all know there's students who can get away with, paying attention in class, but their numbers might not show it at the end of the day. And we need those teachers to be sitting right next to those students using their influence. So what does that actually look like, right? From a user experience standpoint, it effectively means the difference between, it effectively means less work for the teacher and a trusted source, right? When you're using learning intelligence technologies, your curriculum's already there in front of you because it is the technology. Your technology is the curriculum and your curriculum is the technology. I think that's really important to understand. Whereas with the consumer-based AI, you have to take your curriculum, you have to punch it into the consumer AI, and then what you get is, you roll a dice, see what happens, right? I'm pretty sure most teachers don't want to roll a dice when it comes to teaching and learning. And so just to show you the difference, here's a quick little visual, right? On the left, you have a teacher using ChatGPT. They have to go through the process of opening it, finding their materials, dumping it into GPT. And then from there, they have to discern whether those materials are still on point with what they originally pasted in. There's a level of discernment there that I think is really important. And guess what? When you've got 2 minutes on the clock and kids are about to enter that door and they're already standing in line and you can hear them, you gonna use that level of discernment? I don't think so, right? And that's why Kiddom is built the way it is. It's to enable the teacher to do what they do best and to save them time. Ultimately, comparing learning intelligence technologies to traditional ed tech, there's a couple different things I want to hammer here too, right? Historically, technology has asked teachers to be data inputters, right? Pretty sure teachers didn't go to grad school at night to become copy paste wizards, although many of them are today. And I don't miss being a copy paste wizard. And then there's the basically the disconnectedness from the day-to-day job of the teacher, or GPS. That's the definition of where the student needs to be from day 1 to day 180, right? And if teachers aren't coherently sticking to that map, then we run the risk of incoherence, and then we run the risk of creating learning loss. And we don't want to do that. And unfortunately, that is what typically traditional ed tech does, because it's not built from the DNA of the core curriculum, right? So what am I trying to say with all this? What I'm trying to say is we need a new class, okay? There's been the historical ed tech, right, which has lacked content. Then there's the paper-based publishers, which aren't tech native, and they're bolting on AI. But there's really no class, there's really no clear sort of cut amongst the ranks about marrying the two to enable the teacher to be an excellent orchestrator and conductor of beautiful teaching and learning. And that's what we're calling learning intelligence technology. And, I want to, again, thank you all for your time, but I just want to say, we created Kiddom for need, right? This is evidence-based core with purposeful AI to deliver on the promise, not just on the promise of materials, but I think on the promise of what American schools make. which is to ensure that students can leave with a quality education and ultimately to, to actually have some fun in the classroom as well, right? So what we want to do is name that the future should be about connection and humans and teachers connecting with and inspiring kids, right? And we hope at Kiddom that we will see more learning intelligence technologies prop up because that's how you know we're going in the right direction. So, Lonnie, I want to thank you so much for your time. And I'll pause here if folks have questions.
Yeah, I'm sure people are going to have some questions. And I know Lisa Weber, you got on. I just saw you a couple of days ago. I know you just emailed me and I got to respond to you. Yes, we have that research that you need. So I will give you a statement. But Abbas, this is really an interesting moment for us to all talk about. Anybody who wants to unmute right now can unmute and jump on the conversation. I didn't think there was a fourth level. I'm really glad you detailed that. I'm going to want your slides so that we can introduce it to the whole of the alliance, right? It should probably be in some of our handout materials. But the whole thing about the
I'm happy
craft,
to give you the slides.
yeah,
I'm personally speaking, as I was talking, I couldn't help but notice I'm standing right in front of Jacob's Pickles, and now I want a Jacob's pickle as well.
yes, now
Are you are you
everyone
are you
does. Now
craving a
you have to
pickle?
send us all one. Yeah, we all want one now, right? Okay, well, I'm going to put back up a sort of background here slide so we can have that up. I guess the discussion really is that you distinguished far more than I did. I had the two juxtapositioned between what is, open commercial AI and then what is this crafted digital instructional design world. But you went past that into a whole nother level of intelligence, which I think is really fascinating. I do know that if you were asking teachers right now to just put in a request, right? Like I want this design in this way. A lot of times what they're doing is they're dumping some sort of document in ahead as part of the script that the school gave as their curriculum map, right? Like there's instructional design guidance coming down from districts, and it never fits perfectly for all the subjects, but they dump that in there and they dump their script for what they want. And then, yes, they are supposed to read through and make sure that's meeting the thing. They don't always have time to do that. And I know as a journalist, one of the things I found is if I have an ask, it's never exactly what I wanted. So I have a second ask, could you refine for this part? Then the second return is almost invariably leaving out something that it gave me in the first one. So now I have an incomplete second one after I asked for something else to be put in there. So I'm having to run the critical analysis between two versions, which drives me insane. And so then I'm asking for a third one, please include everything from the first and everything from the second, except summarize a little bit and remove this part. And it's always invariably, I still have to edit the third one. That's the real problem. And what you're saying is you've added something even beyond what I thought. So can you just reiterate that again? Because needs to be a real point, the intelligence that you're adding. Because I think your AI infused digitally instructionally designed curriculum, which is already a cut above text stuff they're getting from the major publishers. But now you added something else, and I think it needs to be very clear.
Yeah, I think it's simply to say that consumer AI is broad, unstructured, and unaligned with academic standards. It does not ensure learning outcomes, right? So, GPT, Gemini, they're great tools, by the way. I use them, but they can generate great responses, but they're not built for the job of teaching and learning, right? And learning intelligence technology is built for the job of teaching and learning. It's a new class of education tools purpose built to help teachers and students and schools really maximize the value of high quality instructional materials, which consistent research shows is the biggest lever you can pull in the name of student achievement. And ultimately, learning intelligence technology, or LIT, as I like to say, it uses AI for purpose and intention to make things clearer for teachers, students, and leaders. That's what I would say.
Does it do also a little side tutoring for the student as they're in their journey through?
Yes. So first of all, everything is teacher in the loop with learning intelligence technology, right? We really want the teacher to have oversight over everything and control. We know that
Okay,
classrooms, even in the same building, the classroom, room 225 is going to be very different from room 226. And we want to
yeah,
make sure that teachers are given the tools that they need based on their comfort level and based on their
right,
discretion. So
right.
yes, there will be student facing AI, but always teacher in the loop.
Okay, so let me back up then to this Omni thing, because I don't see, actually, I gotta open my notes and see who's writing in questions. Um, let me go, look at my notes. Who's asking questions? Am I on the right screen? Oh, my bar moved. Okay. Anyone who wants to type in a chat, let me know, like I'm watching chat now, so I won't miss what you needed to tell me, but so let's say Omni-AI becomes more and more of a thing. And we come to you, Abbas, and say, we want to have a look-in standard, which means we need to know where the student is. We don't want your content. We don't want to interfere in that and the intelligence you're wrapping around it at all. We want to know
Are you?
where they're at and their pace and any other metadata so that at the Omni level, we might do something like this, which is, man, this kid's really cooking in language, but they're way behind in math. So at the schedule of this student, we pull them out of language temporarily and give them more time in math.
You're
Does it
you're
make
speaking
sense?
my language. You're speaking my language. So I believe that with learning intelligence technology, we can get to a place where we can stamp all students at grade level instruction every day. And you know what that enables?
Okay.
That enables a couple things. That enables schools to then start thinking about if we've solved the problem of holding students back, then we can think about propelling students ahead at scale. And what you're really talking
Okay.
about, Lonnie, is changing the very grammar of schools so that different students can move at different rates based on how students are performing in math, ELA, science. And that's what Kiddom's all
Mhm.
about. That is why we house math, science, ELA, social studies, everything on under one learning intelligence technology. So you get that holistic 30,000-foot view.
Okay. Yeah, because that's pretty much what we're talking about when we tell people what Omni is really going to be able to do, and that's what they want to see, right? That's what's going on in the consumer markets now, is that people believe you can do a full personalized learning journey and wrap around to that individual person, but you'd lose the craft that you're talking about is within digitally designed courseware. And that's my concern, is I want to retain the ecosystem, but I don't want to give up the level that Omni AI could probably go to and what people want. Yeah. Okay. So
Yes.
I'm gonna see if we can get anybody else engaged on here. Lisa, are you there? Lisa Weber, I just saw you a couple days ago.
Yes, I'm here. I'm in mid-afternoon driving kids around.
Ah, okay. So any comments on all this? And I know Abbas, you have to leave in a couple minutes to catch a train, right? Okay, so get us all a pickle before you
Yes,
go.
ma'am.
So
Um,
Yeah, I will do that.
yeah,
yeah.
I thought it looks really exciting and interesting. Unfortunately, I was a little bit in and out, so I didn't catch everything. And you moved very fast, Abbas, which normally I like, but because I was in and out, I missed a couple things. But as a former math teacher myself, and then a district administrator for many years, um, I definitely the tool definitely appealed to me as a way to really capture all kids.
Yeah, and then be able to actually adjust pathway above that because there's other subjects. Although, Abbas,
I
you're probably going to
appreciate
try to
that.
cover every subject, right? Every grade eventually.
Yeah, I think ultimately, someday, what are subjects, right? And how do we marry subjects? And how do we teach about bridges as themes, right? So like thematically, we can teach about bridges in math class and ELA class, or just thematically we can teach about bridges and read poems about bridges, right? we can start breaking things apart and get away from the way we've been doing things. But in order to break away from the way we've been doing things, we have to ensure that students are at least stamping on grade level instruction before we break grades.
Yeah, yeah, good point. Okay, well, I know you gotta jump. I'll engage everyone else while you're gone, and then of course this recording will be coming out in a little bit. So we have 15 more minutes. If I can call on a few more people and introduce yourself. I know Ramesh, you're on here. We had a conversation a little bit a while ago. Yeah, Ramesh, do you want to unmute? I want to ask you something. What are your
And
thoughts on
Lonnie
this?
and folks, I'm gonna just jump to this to catch this train, but I want to thank you all again for the opportunity, and for the folks who are gonna be watching this later, the practitioners. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. We can tell you're
you.
passionate about what
Yeah.
you do, and I think he's already gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hang on, let me come on.
Yeah, Ramesh, are you coming on? Okay, so yeah. Oh, you're Ramesh, you're currently on. So what are your thoughts on all of this? You know,
I
you're
think
with pneumatics, but what are your
no,
thoughts on like
they speak the same language.
hmm,
We just talk about, see, when you asked him about the student AI and experience, he's like, it will come.
mhm,
You're imagining what that student experience is going to look like, and,
yeah,
and how to change it from so 100% I buy into this thesis, and
yeah,
this needs to happen at the foundational level to counter the challenges that we are going to face by going through the consumer AI route in education.
right,
And I mean, I loved a lot of the slides. I mean, this is going to be deja vu. Like,
yeah,
if we just keep going the way we are and try to integrate AI into the classrooms, I think it's just going to be a lot of burden on the teachers, and it's not going to be in a standardized way. And eventually, God forbid, I mean, there might be another sort of a COVID pandemic kind of a moment, and we'll be forced to kind of rethink our whole, like how we sort of went and reevaluated our digital learning strategy and started finding what the holes are and try to plug it. And we still are not able to do that, but we'll be doing the same thing with AI
yeah,
down the
yeah,
road. So
yeah,
I think doing it right and getting it integrated systemically and into we've got the HUIM, and we got this amazing technology. How about figuring out what's the best way? And it's not an easy job, by the way. So, because
yeah,
you look at the ecosystem and it's like, okay, you can do illustrative math, but if you look at Texas HUIM, I mean, we've got 5 vendors.
yeah, yeah. So we definitely need more change
So
around. So I'm gonna call on a couple of other people to have them comment. Peter Hellberg, I haven't met you before. Do you want to comment?
Hi, I'm actually an account executive with Kiddom. Work with Abbas. So I'm
Ah,
just kind of
okay.
listening
So
in
you don't
here
need
to
to
hear
comment.
feedback. Appreciate the insight here. This is great stuff.
Okay, good. Susie Hiley, you were on before. You want to comment?
Well, I think this is another one of those things that teachers are afraid that it's going to take up a lot of their time when they don't realize that the effort that you put in on the front end is going to pay off ultimately in the back end. So it will pay off just knowing about how to use some of this technology.
Mhm.
It will. And it's so interesting. Many of my best years, I taught middle school for 39 years. Some of the best years that I had teaching were when I was on a highly effective team of teachers, and he was kind of alluding to things like interdisciplinary learning at toward the end. And that really did make a difference for the teachers and the students if we help them make all these connections. So, I think in some cases, the idea of the teaming is coming back, but
Right.
especially at the middle school level, it was so beneficial.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely the teaming. And I think that they can do that within Kiddom. And I know that some of the other forms of AI force the teaming and the bringing people together. It's just a matter of like actually setting that up that way as agents and, you know, being intentional about that. Just the conversations that I've had lately with educators, I think pretty much most people know whole group is killing us in education, especially since we have 30 to 40% mixed ability on average in every classroom. So you've got kids that are way behind or maybe just arrived in America, they speak a different language, they've never been to a formal school before. And it creates an enormous amount of sort of unsettlement, in trying to run a class and run everybody at the same point. And if you've got 6 units, 30 kids apiece, keeping that large herd of kids all together in motion, it's just not a human job anymore. We don't have homogeneity, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to add something to do the work of actually causing that, in the middle of actually also trying to keep people in grade patterns, right? So it's a really strange moment for AI to erupt on the scene because we had so many issues, but maybe it's also the biggest blessing, right? Like, oh wow, something's here to actually take the load off. This is going to be awesome. I think people are a little nervous about just letting the reins go, and then other ones are just all over AI. Let's just throw out everything we already had and just use this, right? Which is a huge concern of mine, because like Kiddom has crafted something that is doing the execution of the knowledge to the student when you're not standing right over their shoulder, that I think is a miracle. And I've seen a lot of other courseware in this market that's just literally amazing. It's like gamified and it's got all kinds of things it can do. And it's engaging the student at a level they want to be engaged in Generation Alpha. It's not like a human mouth standing up in front of them speaking. It's on their channel, so to speak. Yeah, but your point is well taken. I think there definitely has to be some of that. Let's cause intentional human interaction, not just between the student and the teacher, but between the peers. Because I learned from other kids. I don't know, Ramesh, maybe you want to comment on that too. Like, you're in a group and sometimes the other kid says something, right? And you learn from what they asked.
Yeah, I mean, that's irreplaceable, right? I mean, the peer-to-peer learning is a huge component. And same way, I mean, if you're teachers are teaming together and all that, I mean, yeah, I think that's an important element in in learning and growth. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna, I'm gonna stop sharing my slides because we don't really need them. But I want to make sure that what we end off with on this one is we had this conversation, for all the people that are going to watch this as a recording later, about consumer AI versus the AI infused edtech. There was a couple things that Abbas said, and you might want to wrap up the comments on this. But moving what used to be almost all remedial courseware stuff, like you're the teacher and you're going to do your thing, which is use the book somebody gave you or on adoption and maybe a few digital other things. And now you have 150 logins to random tools and quizzing tools and calculators and all that kind of stuff. But you taught this really valuable courseware mostly as remedial, right? Like this kid's running behind, go put them in that thing. But now it's core. And it is a design experiential thing that by the design of it is leading you forward. And then you have other tools all around that. I don't see a way out of keeping those without Omni also being able to look into those and interact with other systems like yours, Ramesh, and other people, and other things, and being able to run agents that are along that student's entire path, not just their language, but looking at how far ahead they are in math and maybe, maybe less math, more language and running, because we don't do that right now. So I think we're in a maturity rate that's very rapid. I threw a lot out there. Claire, you're so kind. You're smiling in the background. But what do you want to do as a final comment on what I just said?
Are you talking to
Ramesh?
me?
Oh no, I was calling on Ramesh. Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay. I was
Claire.
like,
I was just noticing how kind you are. Ramesh, what do you want to comment on what I just said about like the shift overall, the maturity overall?
Maturity of edtech, AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the infusion of this much amount of intelligence has probably gotten us that much closer to how we can provide, I mean, not replace, okay, human teacher-like support, right? Um, so it's a huge shift. Definitely it needs
Yeah.
to be managed. I think this whole concept of keeping the teachers in the loop with everything that's going on with the, student and AI interaction, I mean, that's again non-negotiable. So that
Yeah.
has to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm totally into this AI infused ed tech. I think that's the
Yeah.
only way we are going to see, the innovations accelerating. Otherwise, I think it'll move along, but it'll take a long time before it
Yeah.
matures. So
Right.
I think this is a great trajectory. I mean, if we want to get on this accelerated trajectory, I think these are all important ingredients.
Yeah.
And before we go and start overcommit ourselves to what AI can do in terms of, and it's happened in the last 2 years, just because you're not focusing on telling the kids the answer and you're saying, I'm going to get them to focus on reasoning and I'm going to ask them a question, that doesn't make it human-like. Human
No, no,
a lot
no,
more.
absolutely not. And that's the difference, I think, is that the crafting of the journey,
Right.
the true instructional design is a true craft. It's
Absolutely.
teacher-like in terms of the what you're doing. You're not giving the answer, you're giving manipulatives, digital manipulatives, you're giving other kinds of things that you have to do and ingest and do, but it's not flat, and it's always bringing the teacher back in and having that decision point. I think what's missed by a lot of teachers is they've maybe never seen this level of craft. Like
Right.
if you haven't logged in and seen the really good stuff, you don't get it.
Yep.
It's actually, it's a huge missed opportunity in the executive ranks. And I think in higher ed, it's even worse missed opportunity because K-12 has been like sort of more into it. But I still meet a lot of people that have never seen it. Like they've never logged into Kiddom or any of the other companies in the courseware space. They don't know what I'm talking about. They're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, AI is going to be great. And they think in the flat text world. And like,
Right.
what? That's just still crazy talk to me. So that's what the purpose of this webinar was, and I hope we got the point across so everyone that's listening,
Fantastic.
you
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying. The future is an ecosystem. It's not just AI is going to take over everything. There's still going to be other ed tech.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we are
Yeah,
all aligned with the what. It's how we get there and how we get there uh, to achieve the maximum level of effectiveness in the shortest period of time. I think that's the problem that as technologists, as even educators probably are, struggling with that problem, right?
right. Yeah,
I think it needs to be it's a lot of collaboration between you know, the educators, the instructional designers, to us, I mean, yes, instructional design is just one piece, but just imagine like a one-on-one sort of experience when you're sitting with a human Okay, I'm not talking about this remote tutoring, because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a lot of, it's been bastardized and it's not producing the kind of results that you would want in a one-on-one situation. So the behavioral cues, the emotional intelligence that it needs to have,
right.
the memory
Yeah.
that it needs to have based on,
Yeah, like the AI user shell of that student have
yeah,
accumulating their whole personality. Yeah, I think that's a good point that you just said there, because I think I need to let the Alliance membership know that's gonna be watching this maybe later on.
Mhm.
We do have attention on the sentiment analysis standards
Yeah.
because social emotional interaction with children is very, very slippery slope-ish.
Mhm.
And I want to make sure that we put some guidance in on that. That's going to be another thing that we
That's
do.
important. I think
Yeah,
that's
it's very important. I'm glad you
yeah.
brought that up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we only have like a minute left, so I'm going to let everyone know that I'm wrapping this up. I think this was a really good conversation. I hope people get a lot out of it, especially what Abbas was talking about. And I'm super excited maybe to have him on again, because that conversation could probably go much deeper and actually do some show and tell about what we're talking about inside courseware. Claire, I'm giving you a wink wink on that, because I really think that that's going to be necessary. We need to, he did a little comparison analysis between, just like chat with AI,
Yeah.
but we didn't really show and tell what goes on inside courseware. And then Ramesh, don't forget, I want to have you on one too some other time doing some show and tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
I'm
forget.
going to be gone the next couple of weeks, so let's plan for November.
Yeah, let's do that, because I think I have some stacked up in another couple of
Sounds
weeks.
good.
But yeah, we're gonna keep show and
Fantastic.
telling, and we're gonna keep talking about Omni. Behind the scenes, I am like furiously putting all the things together. We're researching the standards. We're putting together the national event. We're designing the national event so that we fly in a whole lot of people that can just nail it on the standards.
Okay.
And begin that AI fluency conversation so that we drive the whole market up to talk about orchestration, not just literacy endlessly. I'm already bored with that conversation. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. All right, well, Ramesh, thank you very much. Claire, thank you very much. Give your
Thanks
whole
so
team
much,
a thanks for
Lonnie.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for pulling this together and
yeah,
Thank you
yeah,
so much.
thank you.
yeah. Thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so everyone, thank you guys for being with us today, and this recording will come out very soon, and over and out for now. See you on the next event. We'll be launching a whole different topic, so see you then. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye for now.